In the heart of the American Southwest, there is a wound in the map, a place deliberately erased, yet more famous than any city marked upon it. It is a valley of immense silence, a kingdom of secrets guarded by razor wire, motion sensors, and the threat of deadly force. To the world, it is a punchline, a meme, the nexus of every wild tale of alien visitors and government conspiracy. It is known by a name that has become a global synonym for mystery itself, Area 51. For more than 70 years, this patch of desert has been a black hole in public knowledge, a void into which we have poured our greatest fears and our most fantastic hopes. The official story for the longest time was that there was no story. It was simply a restricted annex of a military airbase. Nothing to see here. But the silence from the government was a roar to the curious. It spoke of things to hide, of truths to profound or to terrifying for public consumption. What is really inside this sanctum of American secrecy? What truths lie buried beneath the shimmering salt flats of Groom Lake? Is it merely a testing ground for advanced, but entirely human, technology? Or is it something more? A cosmic library, a morgue for beings not of this world, a place where the future is being reverse engineered from the wreckage of the past? To find the answer, we must peel back layers of mythology, disinformation, and genuine, hard-won secrecy. We must journey back to a time when the world held its breath, teetering on the brink of annihilation. For the story of Area 51 is not, in its origins, a story about outer space. It is a story about us, about our ingenuity, our paranoia, and our unquenchable thirst to see what lies over the next horizon and beyond our enemies' walls. It begins not with a crash but with a crisis, not with aliens but with an iron curtain. The early 1950s, the embers of the Second World War had cooled into the icy stalemate of the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union, two superpowers with fundamentally opposed ideologies, stood locked in a terrifying embrace of mutual assured destruction. An iron curtain had descended across Europe, dividing the world into two camps. In this new kind of war, knowledge was the ultimate weapon. What was the enemy building? Where were their bombers? How many missiles did they have pointed at our cities? The problem was seeing behind that curtain. The Soviet Union was a vast, closed society, a black box of intelligence. Traditional spies on the ground could only gather whispers and fragments. What President Dwight D. Eisenhower needed was an eye in the sky, a way to soar above the Soviet defenses, untouchable, and photograph their most sensitive military installations. He needed a spy plane, but not just any spy plane. It had to be a ghost, a machine that could fly higher than any aircraft in history, operating at the very edge of space, beyond the reach of Soviet fighters and radar. The call went out to the brightest minds in aviation. Among them, one man stood apart, Clarence Kelly Johnson, the mercurial, demanding, and utterly brilliant chief engineer of Lockheed's Advanced Development Projects. This secretive unit, known colloquially as the Skunk Works, was a legend in the aerospace world, a place where small, elite teams worked outside the bureaucracy to create revolutionary aircraft on impossible deadlines. Johnson and his team proposed an aircraft that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was a machine of radical design, more a powered glider than a traditional jet. It had impossibly long, slender wings, a light, fragile body, and a single powerful engine designed to hoist it into the thin, cold air of the stratosphere. The project was given a code name as mundane as the aircraft was extraordinary, Project Aquatone. The world would come to know it as the U-2. The U-2 was an angel of espionage, designed to climb to over 70,000 feet 13 miles straight up. At this altitude, the sky turns a deep, dark violet, and the curvature of the Earth becomes visible. It was a realm pilots called the top of the world. From this vantage point, the U-2's powerful cameras could capture images of startling clarity, capable of distinguishing individual objects on the ground from miles above. But a top-secret plane needed a top-secret home, a place to be built, tested, and flown far from any prying eyes. In the spring of 1955, a CIA officer named Richard Bissell, along with Kelly Johnson himself, flew over the desolate landscapes of the American West, searching for the perfect hiding place. They needed somewhere utterly remote, with clear skies and, crucially, a massive, perfectly flat surface that could serve as a natural runway. They found it here, in a dried-up ancient lakebed in the middle of the Nevada Test and Training Range. The lake, known as Groom Lake, was a pristine salt flat as level as a billiard table. It was surrounded by mountain ranges, creating a natural shield from the outside world. And on the maps of the Atomic Energy Commission, which controlled the surrounding territory for its nuclear weapons tests, this specific grid was designated with a simple, bureaucratic title, Area 51. To entice workers and their families to move to this desolate, sun-scorched wilderness, Kelly Johnson gave it a deliberately ironic and alluring nickname, Paradise Ranch. In the summer of 1955, a skeleton crew began to carve a secret base out of the desert. They built a single runway, a few hangars and rudimentary housing. It was a Spartan, isolated existence. The men who came here effectively vanished from their old lives, sworn to an oath of absolute secrecy. They couldn't tell their wives, their children, or their friends what they did, or where they went when they left for work. They were ghosts, building a ghost plane in a ghost base. By August 1955, the first U-2 was ready. Test pilot Tony Levier climbed into the cramped cockpit of the strange, spindly aircraft. The U-2 was notoriously difficult to fly, demanding immense skill and concentration. Taking off and landing was a perilous affair, but in the air, it was a marvel. On its early flights, it shattered every existing altitude record, soaring into a realm previously untouched by man. The secret of Area 51 was born, and with it, an unintended consequence that would change history. As the U-2 test flights became more frequent, something strange began to happen. People started seeing things in the sky. Imagine you are a commercial airline pilot in 1956, flying your Douglas DC-6 from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City. Your cruising altitude is around 20,000 feet, the absolute ceiling for an aircraft of your type. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the desert floor, you see a flash of light high above you, impossibly high. It's not another plane, nothing flies that high. It's not a star, it's a single, brilliant point of silver light, moving with purpose against the darkening twilight sky. What these pilots were seeing was the U-2, soaring at 70,000 feet. Its silver wings were still bathed in direct sunlight long after the sun had set for the world. Below, to an observer on the ground or in another aircraft, it appeared as a fiery, unidentified object, glowing in the heavens. Reports from airline pilots and ground observers began to flood into the Air Force. These were credible witnesses, trained professionals describing objects moving at altitudes and speeds that were, according to the known laws of aviation, impossible. The Air Force was caught in a trap of its own making. They knew exactly what these objects were. They were their own top-secret spy planes flying out of a base that did not exist. But they couldn't admit that. To reveal the existence of the U-2 would be to hand the Soviet Union one of the biggest intelligence coups of the Cold War. So, they had to lie. The Air Force's official UFO investigation unit, Project Blue Book, was tasked with providing alternative explanations. The official stories were often flimsy and unsatisfying. The strange lights were explained away as weather balloons, high-altitude ice crystals, or even temperature inversions playing tricks with the light. For every report they could plausibly debunk, another would surface that defied easy explanation. The government's policy of necessary deception began to breed suspicion. The public, especially in the communities surrounding the Nevada desert, knew that what they were seeing was real, and they knew they weren't being told the truth. The seeds of the Area 51 mythos were planted, not by aliens, but by the very secrecy designed to protect the nation. For several years, the U-2 was America's silver bullet. It flew dozens of missions over the Soviet Union, China, and Eastern Europe, providing invaluable intelligence that shaped American foreign policy. But the Soviets knew something was watching them from above. They were desperately working on surface-to-air missiles that could reach the U-2's incredible altitude. Kelly Johnson and the CIA knew it was only a matter of time. On May 1, 1960, the inevitable happened. U-2 pilot Francis Gary Powers was shot down deep inside Soviet territory. The cover story of a lost weather research plane immediately crumbled when the Soviets produced the pilot alive and the wreckage of the spy plane largely intact. It was a global embarrassment for the Eisenhower administration. The U-2's invulnerability was shattered. The age of overflight espionage, based purely on altitude, was over. Back in the secret hangars at Paradise Ranch, the pressure was immense. America had lost its eye in the sky. It needed something new, something that couldn't be shot down. If they could no longer fly higher than Soviet missiles, they would have to fly faster, impossibly faster. Johnson's team at Skunk Works was tasked with an even more audacious challenge. The project was codenamed Oxcart. The aircraft they designed looked like it had been sent back from the future. It was a science fiction nightmare, a menacing black dart that would stretch the very limits of known technology. To build this machine, they had to invent entirely new tools and materials. The friction from flying at over 2,000 miles per hour would melt a conventional airframe. So, the plane was built from a new exotic metal, titanium. The vast majority of the world's supply at the time was in the Soviet Union. The CIA had to set up a global network of front companies to secretly purchase the raw material from the very enemy they intended to spy on. The plane's official designation was the A-12. It was a single-seat reconnaissance craft built exclusively for the CIA. Its engines were a revolutionary hybrid turbojet and a ramjet combined that only became truly efficient at mind-boggling speeds. Its surface was coated in a special black paint that helped dissipate the incredible heat and also had the added, revolutionary benefit of reducing its radar signature. It was the world's first stealth aircraft, long before the term was ever coined. The first test flight of the A-12 from Area 51 in 1962 was the dawn of a new age. This black beast later evolved into the Air Force's more famous two-seat version, the A-71 Blackbird, was a spectacle of raw power. Its test flights over the Nevada desert unleashed a new and far more dramatic wave of UFO sightings throughout the 1960s. Its shape was utterly alien. Its speed defied comprehension, crossing the sky from horizon to horizon in a matter of minutes. The thunderous, house-rattling sonic booms it produced as it broke the sound barrier sounded like an explosion in the heavens. To anyone who saw it, it was undeniable proof that something extraordinary was happening at that secret base in the desert. The official denials continued, but they sounded increasingly hollow. The legend of Area 51 was no longer just a collection of whispers. It was being written in the sky, in fire and thunder. For decades, the story of Area 51 remained a tale of two realities. In the public imagination, fueled by the government's steadfast silence, it was a place of high strangeness, a potential home for captured alien technology. Inside the fence, for the thousands of engineers, pilots, and technicians who worked there in total secrecy, it was the bleeding edge of terrestrial aviation. It was the home of the U-2, the Blackbird, and later, the first stealth fighters like the F-117 Nighthawk. These were secrets worth protecting, secrets that gave the United States a decisive technological advantage during the Cold War. As the Cold War began to thaw, the need for absolute secrecy around some of these older programs diminished. By the 1980s, the S-71 was a celebrated, if still mysterious, aircraft. The U-2 was a well-known fact. One might have expected the mythology around Area 51 to fade as the truth of its Cold War activities slowly came to light. But the opposite happened. The vacuum of secrecy had created a legend so powerful that it was no longer satisfied with mere spy planes, no matter how advanced. The myth needed something more. It needed aliens. And in 1989, a man came forward who would give the myth exactly what it wanted. His name was Bob Lazar. He appeared on a Las Vegas television station, his identity obscured, his voice altered. He claimed to be a physicist who had worked at a secret facility south of Groom Lake inside the Area 51 complex, at a site he called S4. His job, he said, was not to build secret planes. It was to reverse engineer the propulsion systems of captured extraterrestrial spacecraft. Lazar's story was a bombshell. He spoke with a calm, technical confidence that was chillingly persuasive. He described seeing 9 different types of alien flying saucers stored in hidden, underground hangars built into the side of a mountain. He drew diagrams of their interiors, explained how they were powered by a super heavy, stable element 115, which science at the time had not yet synthesized. He claimed the craft didn't so much fly as they did distort the fabric of space-time, powered by a gravity reactor the size of a basketball. He told a story of a government cover-up so vast, so profound, it dwarfed anything the public could imagine. He claimed our government was in possession of alien technology that could change the world, but was keeping it secret. He even gave specific dates and locations where the public could go to watch test flights of these alien craft, and people went. Dozens, then hundreds, of UFO enthusiasts and curious onlookers flocked to the lonely highways bordering Area 51. Armed with telescopes and video cameras, they scanned the night skies hoping for a glimpse of the impossible, and on the nights Lazar had predicted, they saw it, strange, glowing orbs of light, moving silently through the night sky, performing maneuvers that no conventional aircraft could execute, making sharp right-angle turns, hovering, and then accelerating to incredible speeds in an instant. To the believers, this was the ultimate proof, the smoking gun. Bob Lazar was a hero, a whistleblower risking his life to tell humanity the truth. The lights in the sky were exactly what he said they were, alien spacecraft being tested by the U.S. government. To the government and to skeptics, the story was far different. Lazar was a fraud. They pointed to inconsistencies in his story. They found no records of his claimed degrees from MIT or Caltech. They argued he had, at best, worked as a low-level technician for a government contractor far from any sensitive projects. The lights in the sky, they claimed, were simply the flares, afterburners, and test flights of conventional, if secret, military aircraft operating out of the base. But the denials no longer mattered. Lazar's story was too compelling, too perfect. It was the key that unlocked decades of pent-up suspicion. Every strange light, every vague government denial, every bit of secrecy surrounding the base was now reinterpreted through the lens of his fantastic claims. He had single-handedly transformed Area 51 from a secret military base into the modern-day Roswell, the epicenter of the UFO conspiracy. The floodgates were open. Area 51 entered pop culture with a vengeance. It became the setting for blockbuster movies, television shows, and video games. The once secret base was now a tourist destination. The nearby town of Rachel, Nevada, became an unofficial hub for alien hunters. Its main road, dubbed the Extraterrestrial Highway. The mystery of Area 51 had become a brand, but beneath the kitsch and the commercialism, a serious question lingered, and it refused to go away. Was there any truth to Bob Lazar's story? Did the government's history of deception about its secret planes create the perfect cover for an even bigger secret? To dismiss Lazar entirely is to ignore the one undeniable fact that supports his narrative: the lights, the strange, silent, fast-moving lights that so many people, for so many years, have witnessed and recorded in the skies over this patch of Nevada desert. If they weren't Lazar's flying saucers, what were they? The answer, once again, lies inside the fence. While the world was looking for little green men, Area 51 continued its real work, building the future of flight. The 1980s and 90s were a golden age for black projects. This was the era of Have Blue, the prototype for the F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter. It was an aircraft of such a bizarre, angular design that it was nicknamed the Hopeless Diamond. Its test flights at night, out of Groom Lake, would have been utterly baffling to any observer. This was also the era of advanced drones, unmanned aerial vehicles or UAVs, projects like the Tacit Blue, a stealthy surveillance aircraft nicknamed the Whale for its strange, rounded shape. There were rumors of hypersonic aircraft, silent, triangle-shaped craft, and advanced propulsion systems that could explain the silent hovering and rapid acceleration witnessed by so many. The lights in the sky that fueled the laser phenomenon were almost certainly the test flights of these next-generation, top-secret and very human-made machines. The government, once again, was caught in the same old trap. It could not, and would not, reveal the existence of its multi-billion-dollar stealth programs to debunk a story about aliens. In a strange way, the UFO narrative provided the perfect cover. Let the world chase stories about flying saucers. It keeps their eyes off the real secrets, the secrets that can actually win wars. In 2013, after decades of stonewalling, the CIA, in response to a Freedom of Information Act request, officially acknowledged the existence of Area 51 for the first time. The declassified documents detailed the history of the U-2 and Oxcart programs, confirming the base's role as a clandestine flight test facility for the government. It was case closed. Area 51 is real, and it's where we test spy planes. No aliens, no spaceships. But for the community of believers, this official admission was too little, too late. It felt like a carefully curated confession, a partial truth designed to conceal a larger one. They had acknowledged the history, the programs that were now decades old and obsolete. But what are they testing there now? What secrets from the 21st century does the base currently hold? The silence about today's operations is as deafening as the silence about the U-2 was in the 1950s. And so the mystery endures. The cycle continues. A new generation of engineers and pilots are working in secret, deep within the Nevada desert, pushing the boundaries of science and technology. And a new generation of observers are standing at the perimeter, looking up at the night sky, wondering and waiting. But the story of Area 51 is not just about technology and conspiracies. It is also a story about people. The thousands of men and women who have spent their careers inside its guarded perimeter, living lives of enforced silence. They are the invisible patriots, the engineers, the mechanics, the pilots whose names will never be known, whose achievements will never be celebrated publicly. For them, the secrecy was not a game. It was a condition of employment, a sacred vow. To violate it meant not just losing your job, but facing federal prison. This created a unique and often stressful culture. Families were kept in the dark. A wife might know her husband was a contractor for the Air Force, that he flew to work each morning on an unmarked plane from Las Vegas, but she could never ask what he did. A child would grow up never knowing what their father helped to build. The weight of these secrets, carried for a lifetime, took a personal toll, fracturing relationships and creating a profound sense of isolation even within their own homes. They were carrying the burden of national security on their shoulders in complete anonymity. And for some, the secrets of Area 51 were not just psychological, but physical. The base, in its rush to develop world-changing technology, often took shortcuts with safety and environmental regulations. In the 1980s and 90s, a darker story began to emerge from former workers, a story of hazardous waste, toxic chemicals, and a callous disregard for the health of those who served there. Former employees described a practice of disposing of hazardous materials including exotic fuels, solvents and stealth coatings in massive, open-air trenches. These trenches, hundreds of feet long, would be filled with waste and then set on fire using jet fuel. The result was a plume of thick, black, toxic smoke. Workers called it London fog that would drift across the base, coating everything in a poisonous residue. Men who had been perfectly healthy began to develop rare cancers, debilitating skin diseases, and severe respiratory illnesses. One such worker was Robert Frost. He developed a severe skin disease and liver problems that his doctors were baffled by. He, along with other sick workers and their widows, decided to do the unthinkable. They sued the United States government. Their lawsuit was not about revealing classified technology. They didn't care about spy planes or aliens. They simply wanted the government to acknowledge what they had been exposed to, and to provide medical care for the illnesses they had contracted in the line of duty. The government's response was swift and absolute. It invoked the state secrets privilege, a legal doctrine that allows the government to shut down a lawsuit if it would risk revealing information vital to national security. They refused to confirm or deny the existence of Area 51. They argued that even acknowledging what kind of chemicals were used at the base would reveal the composition of secret aircraft and technologies. The case, Frost v. Perry, became a landmark legal battle. It was a direct clash between individual rights and national security. For the first time, the base at Groom Lake was at the center of a federal court case, but the secrecy held. The courts sided with the government. The workers' case was dismissed. The government never had to admit what it had burned in those pits and what its people had breathed. Many of the workers, including Robert Frost, died from their illnesses, their government denying their very workplace existed until the very end. This tragic chapter adds a layer of profound human reality to the Area 51 story. It reminds us that behind the mythology and the speculation, real people lived, worked, and in some cases died. The secrets kept were not just about protecting technology from the Soviets, but also, it seems, about protecting the government from liability. It's a sobering reminder that secrecy, even when necessary, can have a dark and painful underside. The legacy of Area 51, then, is a complex tapestry woven from three distinct threads. There is the thread of incredible technological achievement, the real, declassified history of revolutionary aircraft that changed the world. Then there is the thread of myth, the fantastic, unproven stories of aliens and crushed saucers that have captured the global imagination. And finally, there is the thread of human cost, the stories of personal sacrifice, of lives lived in silence, and of the fight for justice by those who believe they were harmed by the very secrets they were sworn to protect. What really lies inside Area 51 today? Perhaps the most truthful answer is the future. A future that we, the public, won't learn about for another 30 years. But as we wait, the myth will continue to grow. A myth that speaks to a profound human yearning to believe that we are not alone in the universe, and that the answers might just be hidden away in the silent, guarded heart of the American desert. To truly comprehend the enduring power of Area 51, we must step away from the known, declassified world of spy planes and venture into the fever dream of the myth itself. We must confront the story that transformed this secret base from a footnote of the Cold War into a legend. To do that, we have to look closer at the man who gave the myth its modern form, its technical vocabulary, and its explosive, viral appeal. The enigmatic and eternally controversial figure of Bob Lazar. When Lazar first appeared on Las Vegas television in 1989, he was a silhouette, a voice from the shadows. He was Dennis, a man afraid for his life, ready to expose the government's greatest secret. The story he told was not just another vague tale of lights in the sky. It was a detailed, scientific-sounding account from a supposed insider. He presented himself as a physicist, a man with credentials from two of the most prestigious scientific institutions in the world, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and the California Institute of Technology. He claimed he had been recruited into the most secret project on Earth, a project hidden in plain sight, just miles from the main facilities at Groom Lake. He called the location S4. It was, he said, a clandestine laboratory built into the base of the Papoose mountain range. Its hangars were invisible from the air, cleverly camouflaged to blend into the desert terrain. Inside these hangars, Lazar claimed he saw with his own eyes 9 distinct, non-terrestrial spacecraft. They were pristine, undamaged, and utterly alien. One in particular became the focus of his work. He called it the Sport Model, a sleek, classic flying saucer about 52 feet in diameter, made of a strange, pewter-colored metal that felt cool to the touch. Lazar's narrative was compelling because of its specificity. He didn't just say alien technology. He gave it names and properties. He described the craft's interior, 3 small, child-sized seats and no discernible seams, as if the entire ship had been molded from a single piece of material. He described its power source, a reactor the size of a basketball, that used a stable isotope of an undiscovered superheavy element, which he called Element 115. This element, he claimed, was the key to everything. When bombarded with protons, it created a gravitational wave, a wave that could be amplified and focused to warp the fabric of space and time, allowing for instantaneous travel across unimaginable distances. This was the core of his testimony. It was a story that sounded like it was ripped from the pages of a science fiction novel, yet it was delivered with the dispassionate calm of a scientist describing a lab experiment. He explained how he and his colleagues were tasked with a seemingly impossible goal: to understand and replicate this technology. They were, in his words, trying to decipher a user's manual written in a language they couldn't even begin to comprehend. The world was electrified. UFO researchers, long dismissed as fringe eccentrics, felt vindicated. Here was their star witness. But almost immediately, the story began to attract intense scrutiny. Investigative journalists and skeptics started digging into Lazar's background, and what they found were troubling inconsistencies. They could find no record of Bob Lazar ever attending MIT or Caltech. The hospitals he claimed to have been born in had no record of his birth. The names of supervisors he mentioned couldn't be verified. He was, it seemed, a ghost. His professional history was murky at best. He had worked at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, a fact that seemed to lend him some credibility. But his role there was disputed. He claimed he was a physicist. The lab's records indicated he was a technician for a contractor. The skeptics painted a picture not of a whistleblower, but of a brilliant and charismatic con man who had concocted an elaborate hoax. They pointed to his personal troubles, including a bankruptcy and his later conviction for pandering after he was found to have installed a computer system in a local brothel. This, they argued, was not the profile of a top-secret government scientist. Yet, for every piece of evidence that cast doubt on Lazar, his supporters had a counter-argument. His records, they claimed, had been deliberately erased by the government to discredit him. It was exactly what you would expect a shadowy deep state to do to someone who had broken their code of silence. They pointed to a 1980 Los Alamos phone book that listed him among the lab's scientists. They pointed to a W-2 form that showed he had been paid by the Department of Naval Intelligence, the very organization he claimed had recruited him. And then there was the man who had brought Lazar to the world. George Knapp, a respected, award-winning investigative journalist in Las Vegas. Knapp was no wide-eyed believer. He was a seasoned reporter who had spent months vetting Lazar's story before ever putting him on air. Knapp found other individuals, former base workers who spoke anonymously, who corroborated parts of Lazar's story, not about aliens, but about the culture of extreme secrecy and the existence of a hidden facility at Papoose Lake. Perhaps the most compelling piece of the puzzle was Lazar's knowledge. Skeptics tried to pick apart his physics, but many of his concepts, while unproven, were theoretically plausible. He spoke about element 115 years before mainstream science synthesized it in a lab and officially named it Moscovium. The version created in the lab was highly unstable, decaying in a fraction of a second. Lazar had always maintained that the alien version was a stable isotope, something our science has yet to achieve. Was he a brilliant fraud who had studied advanced physics on his own? Or was he telling the truth? The debate rages to this day, a perfect, self-contained mystery within the larger enigma of Area 51. Bob Lazar remains a polarizing figure. To his detractors, he is the charlatan who poisoned the well of serious UFO research. To his believers, he is a Galileo-like figure, a man who told a truth so profound the world was not ready to hear it. But regardless of what one believes, his impact is undeniable. He created the modern blueprint for the Area 51 conspiracy. After Lazar, every strange light in the sky was not just a UFO, it was a test flight of the sport model. Every government denial was not just obfuscation, it was part of a cosmic Watergate. He gave the mystery a face, a name, and a story. But to focus solely on Lazar is to risk getting lost in the mythology. To truly understand Area 51, we must look beyond the stories and examine the machinery of secrecy itself. How does a place like this operate, day in and day out, in the modern world? How does it move thousands of people in and out of a top-secret facility every day, all while maintaining a near-perfect veil of silence? The answer begins in the pre-dawn darkness of Las Vegas at a private, unmarked terminal at McCarran International Airport. It's known as the Gold Coast Terminal. There are no signs, no logos, just a discreet building and a parking lot filled with the cars of people who will spend their day working in a place that officially doesn't exist. This is the home of an airline that isn't listed on any public schedule, an airline that has no official name, but is known to everyone by its call sign, Janet. The Janet fleet consists of a series of Boeing 737s, painted a stark white with a single, simple red stripe down the fuselage. They are the secret shuttles of the military-industrial complex. Every weekday morning, they begin their flights, ferrying an estimated 1,500 workers from Las Vegas to Area 51 and to the nearby Tonopah test range. The flight is short, less than half an hour. The windows on the planes are reportedly always kept shut. The passengers cannot see where they are going, and the outside world cannot see them. It is a daily migration of ghosts, a logistical marvel of compartmentalized secrecy. The workers themselves are a cross-section of American industry. They are not all government employees. Many are contractors, engineers, and technicians from companies like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing. They live ordinary suburban lives in Las Vegas, but their work is anything but. They are the modern-day equivalents of the men who built the U-2, bound by the same ironclad non-disclosure agreements. They are living double lives, and the psychological toll can be immense. But the secrecy is not just maintained by oaths and legal threats. It is enforced on the ground with steel and surveillance. The perimeter of Area 51 is a modern fortress wall, though much of it is invisible. The first line of defense is the signs. They are posted miles from the actual base, on lonely dirt roads, in the middle of nowhere. Their language is blunt and unambiguous. Restricted area. Photography is prohibited. Use of deadly force authorized. For the curious who venture past the signs, the response is swift. The perimeter is patrolled by an anonymous force of security guards. They drive white Jeep Cherokees and Ford F-150s, and they wear military-style camouflage, earning them the nickname Commo Dudes. They are not Air Force personnel. They are believed to be employees of a private security contractor, hired to be the unblinking eyes and unspeaking guards of this secret kingdom. Their job is not to engage, but to observe, and to call in the local sheriff for anyone who dares to cross the line. But the Commo Dudes are just the human element. The real guardians of Area 51 are silent and tireless. The landscape itself is wired for sound and motion. Buried in the ground are magnetic sensors that can detect an approaching vehicle from miles away. Hidden in the Joshua trees and scrub brush are low-light cameras and motion detectors. On the peaks of the mountains that overlook the base, like Tickaboo Peak and Freedom Ridge, are more sophisticated observation posts. They are equipped with powerful telescopes and long-range listening devices, all trained not on the sky, but on the ground below, watching the watchers for decades. Civilians could get relatively close, climbing to the top of these peaks to catch a fleeting, long-distance glimpse of the base. It was a cat-and-mouse game. UFO hunters and aviation enthusiasts would set up their cameras, and the base would conduct its most sensitive tests in the dead of night or inside hangars. But over the years, the government has systematically expanded its grip on the surrounding land. In the 1990s, they seized Freedom Ridge and Whitesides Mountain, two of the best public viewpoints, citing national security. Tickaboo Peak, more than 26 miles away, is now the closest legal vantage point, a testament to the ever-expanding radius of secrecy. This relentless, multi-layered security system raises a tantalizing question. Is it all just to protect the development of new drones and stealth bombers? Or could the security apparatus itself be part of a grander strategy of misdirection? Some researchers have proposed a fascinating and deeply paranoid theory that Area 51 deliberately uses the UFO myth as a form of psychological camouflage. Consider the timing. Bob Lazar told people to go out and watch the skies on Wednesday nights. And on Wednesday nights, people saw spectacular, inexplicable lights. The conventional explanation is that these were test flights of secret aircraft like the F-117 or new drone prototypes. But what if it was more clever than that? What if the base schedulers, knowing they were being watched, deliberately conducted their most visually confusing tests on those nights? What if they used flares, plasma discharges, or other exotic countermeasures to create a light show that would perfectly mimic the public S? idea of a UFO. It's a concept known as psychological operations or psyops. In this scenario, the alien story is the perfect cover. It sends the public, the media, and even foreign intelligence agencies on a wild goose chase looking for little green men. It distracts them from the real secrets, the revolutionary breakthroughs in radar-absorbent materials, in unmanned flight, in hypersonic propulsion. By feeding the myth, they protect the reality. It's a brilliant, if Machiavellian, strategy. The base becomes a hall of mirrors, where every glint of truth is deliberately distorted into a fantastic reflection. The more people talk about aliens, the less they talk about the things that can actually shift the global balance of power. To fully grasp the scope of this hidden world, we must also understand that Area 51 is not an island. It is merely the most famous province in a vast, secret empire, a network of black sites and restricted zones, an archipelago of secrecy scattered across the American West and beyond. Just to the north of Groom Lake lies the Tonopah Test Range, sometimes referred to as Area 52. For most of the 1980s, while Area 51 was developing the next generation of stealth, Tonopah was the secret operational home of the F-117 Nighthawk fleet. Pilots would fly in, train in darkness, and live in isolation, completely invisible to the outside world, years before the aircraft was ever publicly revealed. Further west is the Naval Air Weapons Station China Lake, a massive swath of the Mojave Desert where the Navy develops its most advanced weapons. To the north in Utah is the Dugway Proving Ground, a place with a history as dark and controversial as Area 51's is mysterious. This is where the military has tested chemical and biological weapons for decades, a place associated with nerve agents, anthrax, and unsettling secrets of a different, more earthly kind. Together, these bases form a hidden continent, a black world operating with its own rules, its own budget, and a level of secrecy that is almost absolute. The money that funds these places is buried deep within the Pentagon's budget, hidden in classified line items that are shielded from public and even most congressional oversight. It is a government within a government, a world where the future of warfare is being designed, tested and perfected long before the public even knows the game has changed. This secret empire is not just a domestic affair. It extends across the globe. Perhaps the most important sister site to Area 51 is located halfway around the world. In the desolate heart of the Australian outback, it's called the Joint Defence Facility Pine Gap. Like Area 51, its existence was once a closely guarded secret. It is a massive satellite surveillance station, operated jointly by the CIA, the NSA, and the Australian government. Its giant, white geodesic domes, the radomes, are the ears of the Western intelligence community. Pine Gap controls American spy satellites, hoovering up electronic signals from across the Eastern Hemisphere. It is a critical node in America's global intelligence network, monitoring weapons tests, intercepting communications, and providing targeting information for drone strikes. The technology developed in the Nevada desert is often controlled and utilized by the operators. Sitting in the Australian desert, they are two sides of the same coin. One develops the secret eyes, the other tells them where to look. Understanding this global network is key to understanding the true purpose of Area 51. It is not a standalone oddity. It is the research and development heart of a living, breathing, planet-spanning intelligence apparatus. So, if the Cold War is over and the original purpose of these bases has been fulfilled, why does the intense secrecy persist? Why is Area 51 seemingly busier and more heavily guarded than ever before? The answer is that the mission has evolved. The race against the Soviet Union has been replaced by new races against new adversaries, and in new technological domains. The post-9/11 world saw an explosion in the development of unmanned aerial vehicles, or drones. The famous Predator and Reaper drones, which have become synonymous with modern warfare, were born out of the same culture of rapid, secret development that defined Area 51. But those are just the drones we know about. Inside the fences at Groom Lake, their successors were being tested. One of the most tantalizing clues to this new mission came in 2011. An advanced, previously unknown stealth drone crashed in Iran. The Iranians put the wreckage on display. It was a sleek, bat-wing craft unlike anything the public had ever seen. It was identified as an RQ-170 Sentinel, a stealth reconnaissance drone operated by the CIA. Its nickname inside the intelligence community was the Beast of Kandahar, after it was spotted operating over Afghanistan. Where was such a revolutionary aircraft developed and tested? All evidence points to one place. Area 51 had quietly moved from the age of spy planes to the age of invisible robotic spies, and the evolution continues. Today, the cutting edge of military aviation is in hypersonic technology. This means vehicles, both manned and unmanned, that can travel at more than 5 times the speed of sound over 3,800 miles per hour. At such speeds, a weapon launched from the continental United States could strike any target on Earth in under an hour. It is a technology that threatens to make all existing air defenses obsolete. The United States, Russia, and China are now locked in a frantic, high-stakes hypersonic arms race, and the primary American laboratory for this new technology is almost certainly the same hidden valley in Nevada. This rumored hypersonic test vehicle has a name in the mythology, Aurora. For years, people have reported seeing a mysterious, triangle-shaped aircraft, often accompanied by a strange, pulsed exhaust trail, sometimes described as donuts on a rope. They have reported hearing a deep, rumbling roar that shakes houses and is fundamentally different from a conventional sonic boom. Is Aurora real? The Air Force has consistently denied its existence, but the denials sound hauntingly familiar. They are the same kind of denials that were issued for the U-2 and the F-117, right up until the day they were publicly unveiled. It's possible that Aurora was a specific project that was cancelled, but the pursuit of its goal, hypersonic flight, is undoubtedly real, and it is happening at Area 51. The secrecy in the 21st century has also had to adapt. In the 1950s, hiding a base in the middle of the desert was enough. Today, commercial satellite companies can take high-resolution photographs of the base and sell them to anyone with a credit card. The challenge is no longer hiding the facility's existence, but hiding its purpose. Secrecy has become less about physical walls and more about informational control. The construction of massive new hangars can be seen from space, but what goes on inside them remains a complete mystery. The true secrets are no longer the airframes, but the exotic materials they are made from, the quantum computing avionics that guide them, and the directed energy weapons they may carry. This ongoing, impenetrable secrecy collided head-on with modern internet culture in the summer of 2019, creating one of the most bizarre and revealing episodes in the base's history. A college student in California created a joke event on Facebook. It was called Storm Area 51. They can't stop all of us. The plan, stated satirically, was for millions of people to gather and Naruto run a distinctive, arms-back running style from a Japanese anime past the guards to finally see them aliens. What started as a meme, a piece of viral internet absurdity, quickly took on a life of its own. Millions of people are SVPD. The US Air Force was forced to issue a stern public statement warning potential trespassers away. The media descended on the tiny towns of Rachel and Hyco, Nevada, preparing to cover a potential clash between meme lords and the most secretive military base in the world. In the end, only a few thousand people actually showed up. There was no storming. The event turned into a quirky, peaceful desert festival. But the Storm Area 51 phenomenon was profoundly significant. It was a generational expression of the same desire that has driven the mystery for 70 years. The desire to know. It was a manifestation of a deep-seated public distrust of official secrecy, channeled through the strange, ironic language of the internet. It showed that even in an age of cynicism and distraction, the idea of a hidden truth, a world-changing secret locked away in the desert, still holds an incredible, almost primal power over our imagination. This brings us to the present day, a time when the subject of UFOs has, remarkably, circled back from the fringes of conspiracy. to the halls of power in Washington, D.C. in recent years, the Pentagon has declassified and released stunning videos taken by Navy fighter pilots of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. These videos show objects moving in ways that seem to defy our understanding of physics. The objects, given nicknames like tic-tac and go fast, accelerate instantaneously and make sudden changes in direction with no visible means of propulsion. For the first time since the days of Project Blue Book, the US government is openly admitting that there are things in our skies that its most advanced sensors cannot identify. Congress has held hearings. The Director of National Intelligence has issued reports. The conversation is no longer about grainy photos from the 1950s. It's about high-resolution, forward-looking infrared camera data from F-18 Super Hornets. This new era of official engagement has thrown the entire Area 51 story into a new light. Are these UAPs related to the work being done at Groom Lake? There are two compelling and diametrically opposed possibilities. The first is that the UAPs are not alien, but are, in fact, the next generation of American secret technology being tested out of Area 51. Perhaps the drone and hypersonic programs have advanced to a point where their performance is indistinguishable from what we would call magic. In this case, the government's public, we don't know what their stance could be the most brilliant piece of misdirection yet. A way to test their most advanced systems in the open while maintaining plausible deniability. The second possibility is far more profound. It is that the government, after decades of denial, is slowly preparing the public for a truth that Lazar and others have claimed all along. That some of these objects are not ours, that we are being visited by a non-human intelligence. If this is the case, then Area 51 is not just a test site for our own technology, but could very well be, as the legends suggest, the place where we study, and perhaps try to understand the technology of others. The truth is, we are left where we began, standing on the outside of a locked door, listening to the faint sounds of machinery within, and trying to guess the shape of the work being done. Area 51 has become a national symbol, a Rorschach test in the desert. What you see in it says as much about you as it does about the base itself. If you are inclined to trust authority, you see a necessary tool of national security. If you are inclined to question it, you see the heart of a vast conspiracy. If you are a dreamer, you see the last, best hope of contact with the cosmos. The base is a paradox. It is a place of unbelievable technological advancement that is shrouded in an almost medieval level of secrecy. It is a source of both genuine national pride and profound public distrust. It is a physical location made of concrete, steel, and asphalt that has become an ethereal landscape of the mind, a place where our most advanced science and our most ancient myths converge. The final secret of Area 51 may be that there is no single secret. There is no one simple answer. There are no aliens until there are. It is only spy planes until it isn't. The base is a living entity, constantly evolving, its purpose shifting with the geopolitical tides. The only constant is the silence. It is the silence that has fueled our curiosity for 3/4 of a century. And it is the silence that will likely continue to draw our eyes to the empty skies over the Nevada desert, forever searching, forever wondering what is truly happening in that silent, guarded valley. As we stand at the precipice of a new era of disclosure, the shadows surrounding Area 51 have begun to recede. But the heart of the mystery remains stubbornly in the dark. The UAP reports from the Pentagon have cracked open a door that was bolted shut for generations. They have given official sanction to a question once relegated to the fringes: are we alone? And if we are not, what role has this secret base in the desert played in concealing that monumental truth? To explore this final, most profound layer of the enigma, we must journey back to the very beginning of the modern UFO era, to an event that has become the genesis story of American ufology. An event that predates Area 51, but whose alleged cargo may have ultimately become its most precious secret. We must go back to Roswell, the summer of 1947. 2 years after the end of the Second World War, the world was entering the atomic age. In the dusty plains of New Mexico, near the Roswell Army Airfield, home to the world's only atomic bomb squadron, something fell from the sky. A local rancher named W.W. McBrazel discovered a vast debris field scattered across his property. The material was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was composed of strange metallic foils that, when crumpled, would unfold themselves without a single crease. There were small, I-beam-like structures with strange, purplish hieroglyphic markings on them. Initially, the military was remarkably open. The base's public information officer issued a stunning press release, stating that the Army had come into possession of a flying disc. The story was a global sensation, but within 24 hours, the narrative was abruptly and forcefully reversed. A press conference was held, where a general explained that the debris was nothing more than the remnants of a common weather balloon. The story, as far as the public was concerned, died. But for the men who were there, the story never died. Years later, as they reached the end of their lives, many of them began to talk. Major Jesse Marcel, the intelligence officer who was the first military official on the scene, went on record stating unequivocally that the material he handled was not of this world. He described how the official weather balloon story was a cover-up, a story concocted to quell public interest. Others came forward with even more shocking tales. Tales of not just one crash site, but two. Tales of a second, more intact craft, and of the bodies of its strange, non-human occupants being recovered by a secret military team. The Roswell incident became the great, foundational what-if of the UFO phenomenon. What if the first story was true? What if the United States military, in 1947, recovered a crashed extraterrestrial vehicle? Such an event would have been the single most important moment in human history. The technology recovered would have been a prize beyond all value, a quantum leap into the future. But it would also have been a secret of unimaginable weight, a secret that could shatter religious beliefs, destabilize governments, and incite global panic. A secret that would need to be protected at all costs in the most secure, most remote, most secret place on Earth. At the time of the Roswell crash, Area 51 did not yet exist. The secure facilities of the day were places like Wright Field in Ohio, which became Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. For years, rumors persisted that the Roswell debris and the alleged alien bodies were taken to a facility at Wright-Pat known as Hangar 18. But as the Cold War intensified, and as the nation's most advanced aerospace projects began to consolidate in the Nevada desert, it is a tantalizing and logical leap to assume that the most important secret of all would have been moved to the most secure facility of all. This is the grand conspiracy theory, the theory that connects all the dots. In this narrative, Area 51's primary purpose was never just about building our own secret planes. It's true. Deeper purpose was to serve as the ultimate black site for the study and reverse engineering of recovered alien technology. The U-2 and the SS-71 were not the base's main event, they were the cover story. They were the visible, terrestrial secrets used to hide the ultimate, non-terrestrial secret. In this context, Bob Lazar's story is not an outlier, but the logical conclusion. He is the man who claims to have worked on the Roswell hardware itself. The sport model he described could have been the more intact craft recovered from the New Mexico desert. The element 115 he spoke of could have been the power source that made it fly. The strange materials and propulsion systems of the Blackbird and the stealth fighter in this view were not just the products of brilliant human engineering, but were perhaps inspired by, or even directly copied from, the alien technology being studied at S4. It is a breathtaking, almost seductive narrative. It explains everything. It explains the extreme secrecy, a level of security that seems almost excessive for just building airplanes. It explains the government's decades of denial and obfuscation about UFOs. It explains the strange, impossible maneuvers witnessed by so many pilots and ground observers. It transforms Area 51 from a mere military base into a place of almost mythological significance, the secret nexus between humanity and the cosmos. But is there any credible evidence to support this grand theory? Beyond the stories of Lazar and the Roswell witnesses, the answer depends on who you ask and how you define evidence. There are no declassified documents that speak of crushed saucers. There are no official photographs of alien bodies. The evidence, such as it is circumstantial, anecdotal, and deeply intertwined with the murky world of intelligence and counterintelligence. One of the most intriguing figures in this shadow world was a man named John Lear. He was the son of Bill Lear, the inventor of the Learjet. John was a highly accomplished pilot himself, holding more FAA airman certificates than any other pilot on record. In the 1980s, before Lazar came forward, Lear began to talk. He claimed that his connections in the intelligence community had fed him information about a massive government cover-up. He spoke of a secret deal, a grand deception made with an alien race. He talked about underground bases, alien abductions, and a secret government that was using alien technology. Lear's stories were wild, almost unhinged. He was often dismissed as a fantasist, but he was also undeniably well-connected. He was a man who moved in the circles of test pilots and intelligence operatives. Was he simply crazy, or was he the target of a deliberate disinformation campaign, fed a mixture of truth and fantasy by his sources to discredit him? Or, most disturbingly, was he telling a truth so bizarre that it sounded like fiction? The stories of men like Lear and Lazar point to a tactic often used by intelligence agencies, hiding the truth in plain sight by wrapping it in absurdity. If you want to hide a secret, you don't just deny it. You surround it with so many outlandish and easily disprovable claims that the core truth is lost in the noise. The UFO field is rife with this phenomenon. For every credible account from a fighter pilot or a radar operator, there are 100 stories of reptilian overlords and intergalactic federations. It becomes impossible for the average person to separate the signal from the noise. Perhaps that is the entire point. This strategy of reality management may be the most sophisticated secret that Area 51 holds. The base itself may be a giant piece of stagecraft in a global psychological theater. Its real work could be to act as a magnet for speculation, a black hole that draws in and contains the entire UFO phenomenon, allowing the government to control the narrative. Consider the possibility that some of the craft tested at Area 51 are not just advanced, but are deliberately designed to look alien. What if the military has developed craft that can mimic the performance characteristics described? In UAP reports silent, instantaneous acceleration, right-angle turns? If you were to test such a craft, you would want to do so in a place where sightings would be automatically attributed to aliens. Area 51 is the perfect location. Any sighting is immediately absorbed into the existing mythology, protecting the secret of the terrestrial technology. The base becomes a self-perpetuating myth-making machine. This theory suggests a level of intellectual and strategic sophistication that is both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. It implies that for decades, the military and intelligence communities have been engaged in a massive, long-term project to shape public perception, to manage our beliefs about one of the most fundamental questions of human existence. But what if the truth is simpler and at the same time more complex? What if there is no single, monolithic truth about Area 51? What if the base is not just one thing, but many things at once? It is undeniably a place where the most advanced terrestrial aircraft are built and tested. That is a declassified fact. It may also be a place where recovered, non-terrestrial technology is studied. And it may also be a place where psychological operations are planned and executed. These realities are not mutually exclusive. In the compartmentalized world of national security, it is entirely possible for all of these things to be happening at the same time, with the people working on one project having no knowledge of the others. The engineer working on the next generation hypersonic vehicle might know nothing about the strange, recovered materials being analyzed in a different, deeper part of the base. The security guard Pata, oiling the perimeter, might see strange lights but be told they are part of a counterintelligence program. The truth of Area 51 may not be a single, elegant solution, but a messy, overlapping, and contradictory collection of secrets. This brings us to the ultimate question. What is the legacy of this place? What has been the impact of 75 years of secrecy, of myth-making, and of genuine technological revolution? The legacy is twofold. On one hand, Area 51 is a monument to human ingenuity. It is a symbol of what can be accomplished when the brightest minds are given unlimited resources and freed from the constraints of bureaucracy. The aircraft developed there, from the U-2 to the SR-71 to the F-117, were not just machines, they were leaps of the imagination, technological triumphs that helped to win the Cold War and define the modern age of aviation. They kept the peace through strength, through the power of strategic reconnaissance. This is the official legacy, the one that the government is now slowly beginning to acknowledge. It is a legacy of patriotism, of innovation and of victory. But there is another, darker legacy. It is a legacy of institutionalized deception. For decades, the United States government systematically lied to its own citizens. It lied about the U-2 sightings, attributing them to weather balloons. It lied about the existence of the base itself. It lied by omission, allowing a culture of wild speculation and conspiracy to fester in the vacuum of its silence. This has had a corrosive effect on public trust. When a government is caught lying about spy planes, it becomes easier to believe they are lying about crashed saucers. The secrecy of Area 51 did not just create a myth, it created a deep and abiding distrust of official institutions, a distrust that has seeped into every corner of modern American life. The human cost, as we have seen, is also part of this legacy. The workers who were allegedly sickened by toxic waste paid a terrible price for their service. The families who lived with the stress and isolation of their loved one's secret work also paid a price. The secrecy was not a victimless crime. It had real-world consequences for the people who were sworn to uphold it. And what of the future? As we move deeper into the 21st century, will the walls of secrecy around Area 51 finally crumble? The current trend towards transparency on the UAP issue suggests a potential shift. But it is more likely that the nature of the secrecy will simply change once again. The secrets of today will be declassified 30 years from now, while the secrets of tomorrow are being forged in the same hangars under a new, more sophisticated veil of silence. The base will always be one generation ahead of public knowledge. Perhaps the greatest secret of all is not what is inside the hangars, but what the idea of Area 51 has unlocked inside of us. It has become a powerful cultural symbol, a focal point for our anxieties about technology, our suspicions of government, and our deep, abiding hope that we are part of a larger, more wondrous cosmic story. The base reflects our own dual nature. It represents the pinnacle of our logical, scientific, and engineering prowess, and at the same time, it is the canvas for our most irrational, mythic, and spiritual yearnings. In the end, we are left with a profound and perhaps unanswerable question. Does Area 51 hold the key to our technological future, or the key to our cosmic past? Is it a shield protecting us from our enemies, or is it a cage protecting us from a truth we are not yet ready to know? The honest answer is, we don't know. And perhaps that is the most enduring legacy of all. The base at Groom Lake was designed to be a place of answers, a place where the capabilities of our enemies could be known. But it has evolved into a place of questions, a place that forces us to question our government, our science, and our very place in the universe. The story of Area 51 is the story of the modern age. It is a story of the tension between an open society and the necessities of secret warfare. It is a story of how the absence of information can be more powerful than information itself. And it is a story that is far from over, as long as there are fences, guards, and warning signs in the Nevada desert, as long as there are strange, unexplained lights in the night sky, and as long as the government maintains its selective silence. The search for what is really inside Area 51 will continue, because to be human is to be curious. To be human is to look up at the stars and wonder, and to be human is to push against every locked door, to question every official story, and to believe against all odds that the greatest secrets are yet to be revealed. The truth, as they say, is out there, and for millions of people around the world, the road to that truth still leads to a lonely, guarded, and myth-haunted patch of desert, a place on no public map, a place known simply and forever as Area 51.